And so I guess it's always about finding the right balance, isn't it?
Yeah, technology is neutral. It's what we do with it that matters. And I think that just gets back to my point, Joseph, about the incentives right now. Right now, in an attention economy, the incentives for these platforms, these big, powerful, rich platforms, is to design ever more features that can keep us on the screens longer and look, you don't have, that's not just a theory. Look at what Instagram did once TikTok took off. Instagram before TikTok was nothing like it is now. Didn't prioritize short form video. It had no Reels function. It was just a place for pretty pictures to look at. The second TikTok came and started taking eyeballs away, which meant taking money away because you don't pay a subscription.
Right.
Now, in a world where I have my Instagram subscription and my TikTok subscription, the platforms they have their money. So they don't really care how much time I split between the two. Just like if I have 8 magazine subscriptions, they don't care how often I read, how much of it I read, as long as I keep the subscription, right? But now, if I'm on TikTok for 4 hours a day, that means I'm not on Instagram and they're not getting paid. So they have to make Instagram more like TikTok. And the competition becomes who can hoover up attention, who can provide a better service that's more conducive to Western democracy. That incentive will not change until we get them out of this business model where we're the thing they sell, consequence free, at scale. And you cannot have a new entrant come into this market because these platforms have all achieved network effects. You've had your Blue Skies, you have MacDougall, you have these other things, but they never take off because there's only room for a few of these places.
The same way.
Yeah, you can't compete with free and
Yeah.
build millions of users. You just, but if in another policy paper, not to open this can of worms at the end, but something called adversarial interoperability, which is something Cory Doctorow, Canadian technologist, bangs on a lot about. It's like when you have a mobile phone. When you switch providers, you don't lose all your contacts. You don't lose, everything ports over. You're just paying a different provider for the service, right? You could do that with these social media platforms. So your contacts and friends and content can be accessed by anyone, whatever platform they're on. But the platforms won't do that because they won't get paid for it. But if they were a fee for service, they would have to give a better service that doesn't rely on addiction. But you could do stuff like that. So there are things we can do. And technology, to your point, is good. And there are uses for it. It was the Arab Spring. It was a time of belief. But as ever, if you don't put the right framework and boundary around that, and like as a conservative, I don't like heavy-handed regulation, but I think we've proven that the Wild West of doing nothing about these platforms is not great. And then more to the point, so much of what ails the world now is powered by what's happening in the United States. And if you were to come at these platforms with a united front around the table, you could probably hem Donald Trump in a lot more effectively than you could by doing anything else. And his superpower is having these platforms to bully people and to set an agenda and to denigrate the media and to gut the accountability function of the press. And hopefully the West will wake up to the fact that I joke, and this is maybe a poor way to close, but like what the Israelis did with Tehran, can we do that to Silicon Valley, please? A little tactical nuclear strike. And that would be the best thing you could do for Western democracy. And I say it kind of in jest, but not. Like these platforms have just been allowed to run wild, and we got to put the harness back on them. And that's not anti-free market. That is just like, to Andrew's point, but people will lose faith in capitalism if we let this very pernicious form of capitalism advance. And people say it's not about competition. You know what outcompetes a healthy cell in the human body? A cancerous one. It's not to say like it grows much faster. Do we want it growing much faster? No, it's cancer. We have to be able to spot this stuff and cut it out.